What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review a mixtape by Yung Joc. Basically, this mixtape is called The Grind Flu, and it came out in the summer of 2009. Now, Yung Joc wound up getting dropped from Puff Daddy's Bad Boy Records label, and it was kind of a disappointment just because the reception was just not that high for his 2007 album Hustlenomics, which a couple underperforming singles, especially like Coffee Shop and then Bottle Poppin', didn't do much better. So that was kind of the concept. So unfortunately, despite the sheer success of New Joc City, which was really a massive hit and did a lot of damage in 2006 with snap rap and ringtone rap and that type of stuff, Hustlenomics, just if you didn't see that review, I reviewed Hustlenomics about a month and a half ago, but Hustlenomics basically kind of abandoned like the ringtone rap and snap rap kind of sound for more of like a lighter kind of less oriented version, not less oriented in terms of quality, but just less oriented version of the stuff that like T.I. and Jeezy and trap rappers like Rick Ross and some of them were kind of doing, but just didn't pull it off quite as well. It was a decent, pretty solid album, Hustlenomics, but it just didn't have like the singles that it needed. I mean, I did feel like Bottle Poppin' was an excellent one, and I'm a G was a pretty excellent one, but for some reason those singles just didn't catch on. So that was kind of the concept. Yung Joc went back to mixtape fare, and in a lot of ways, this used to be considered the Grind Flu used to be considered to be like Yung Joc's like third official project. Now he has dropped some mixtapes before that and stuff like that, but this was like the third official project in a lot of ways. In years past, Wikipedia used to have a wiki article about the Grind Flu. It was kind of seen as like Yung Joc's third album in a lot of ways. It was the closest thing, and it was just the most notable project. This is probably the one that I would recommend the next thing to get if you know two Yung Joc albums. Like if you really love New Joc City and then you enjoy enough like Hustlenomics, I would say if you're looking for absolutely more Yung Joc, this would be the third most notable project to kind of go and fuck with and kind of have some good times with. Has some good flair on here. I looked about it. Originally, back in the day, I wasn't sure about what the singles were. I had to kind of look it up. I mean, apparently there's at least one music video for this particular album or this particular mixtape, and that's just the title track Grind Flu. So that was interesting enough to kind of get that, but I just could not find other promotion for it. It's just kind of hodgepodge nowadays with all the mixtape websites kind of being all over the place and that type stuff. With all the mixtape websites kind of being all over the place nowadays, it's getting difficult to not just be able to find some of this stuff, but be able to find like notable information in terms of details as far as that kind of goes. I guess folks just assume that you're just going to stream the things that you care about, but there's a lot of good gems on here. This mixtape is actually going to get a pretty rave score. I like this more than Hustlenomics. I would say I pretty much like it just about as much as New Joc City, which was a pretty excellent album. If you caught that review I did of that back in early 2022, I gave that like a 9 or a 9.5 out of 10. So I really enjoyed New Joc City. Excellent project, the state of the art 2000s era rap music and trap music as far as that kind of goes. But this is pretty much up there with it. Outdoes Hustlenomics. I mean, maybe it could have used a single or something that could have, maybe it could have used a single that could have pushed for some further downloads and that type of stuff. But it does have some good guests on here. Gucci Mane is on here 3 times. Nicki Minaj actually has a minor appearance, even though it's just a hook. There's other folks on here. It eats up space on my computer to bring up the page that has information upon the Grind Flu, so I can't really list all the guests, but I can think of like a few of them, like Gucci Mane, Nicki Minaj. I want to say that Shawty Low is on here, some folks like that, those type of folks. Chris Brown is on here, so there is some good moments as far as that kind of goes. And like Nitty does, so another good thing about it is Nitty, the producer that did Yung Joc's hit single It's Going Down, does a couple beats on here, and both of them are pretty excellent. I definitely like the concept. I could tell just by Nitty's little intro that he does on the songs that he has a couple. Pretty much one of the best songs on the album is one of the beats that he does. So I definitely like the concept behind that. But yeah, we'll go ahead and talk about this just because there's not really a wiki article about this. Like I was saying, there's not really a ton of information. There's just kind of, I mean, you can go to Discogs or something like that and find like decent information, but just the concept about it kind of is that just the concept about it is this is just kind of a very off to the wayside kind of project. So I would say, like I said, this is like the third most notable Yung Joc project, and if you like Yung Joc in any sort of way, you owe it to yourself to check this out, especially considering that it's free. Just hunt it down, find the download where you can find it, and then fuck with it. And we're gonna list some of these. So basically, yeah, there's 17 songs on this mixtape, and I'll go ahead and talk about the single, and then we'll get to the songs I recommend. So the single is Grind Flu, the title track, like I was talking about. This is an evening cut with like some tense, dramatic club fare about it. Definitely like the kind of tense feel of this particular beat. If you see the music video, Young Joc is like wearing like a COVID mask and that type of stuff. It's really, he went with the S he went with the theme of this kind of being like a sickness vibe really well. This is a song that kind of has that concept pretty damn well. It's just a nice kind of music video and stuff. It's an interesting kind of club bop. It's a good song concept, and it's just good for like a typical night out. I just would say this is a nice one. I mean, it's interesting that it's a different pitch from Young Joc from what he typically, it's a different pitch from the stuff that Young Joc was kind of typically doing around this time, just because after 2008, once his guest verses from 2008 kind of wore off, which was like his last big year, he kind of got more on like the underground circuit again. It was just interesting when the budget was kind of lower, seeing the sort of stuff that Young Joc kind of did. He went back to the trap, did more Gucci Mane type stuff, OJ the Juice Man type stuff, and folks like that, Rocco type stuff, Shoddy Low type stuff, some of those folks, Shoddy Low type folks, some of those type folks. So just to kind of be able to say this Grind Flu song, it's a pretty effectual one. It's just a nice evening cut, like I was saying. It's a good bop for stepping out, just kind of in a more, yeah, it's just a good evening cut with just like some dramatic kind of fare about it. Just an easy kind of night out, just in the concept. I mean, yeah, it's kind of a themed song, so if you're looking for just like standard nights out, it's a little bit different from that, but it is a typical night, just in a more kind of themed approach as to how that kind of goes. So it's a good single, but I would say the only thing about it is maybe the topic is a little bit too outlandish for like a typical, like if you come to Young Joc just after listening to It's Going Down and then you go to this song, this is probably not the song I would recommend to go to after if you've only heard like 2 or 3 songs by Young Joc, just because the theme and approach is a little bit strong. But I look after it like it is a good song, but you probably have to know Young Joc more than a little bit to be able to fuck with it. I'd say I'd probably go for songs I would go for if you only know like a few songs by Young Joc. I would go for like Drinks Up, Check, Counterfeit, some of those type songs, Universal Language that we're going to get to on here. That's just kind of the thing. So there's 18 songs on this mixtape. One is the Grind Flu skits that narrows it down to 17 songs, and out of those 17 songs I wind up recommending to you 13. So that's actually pretty damn good. So those 13 songs I recommend would be Drinks Up, Grind Flu, Check, Wham, Don't Be Scared, Universal Language, Make a Movie, Counterfeit, Chose Me, So, Birds, Might as Well, and 500 Horses. So an immediate one on here, probably one of the best beats on this project is Check. One of the best beats on this project is Check. This is like a leery nightclub gem, just it has a real distorted beat, and it's a comfortable night out kind of bop. Just a real kind of leery, kind of just hazy kind of beat on here. Great song to smoke to, I would definitely kind of say. Just an overall nightclub gem that keeps up with Grind Flu. And it's actually probably the better song that I would recommend before Grind Flu, the single. So that's just a good example one. Just has some real kind of trap-oriented Young Joc that's necessary. Drinks Up is probably one of my favorite songs on this album. This has Bobby V. He does a pretty commercial-ready hook on here. So if you're looking for some commercial Young Joc fare, this is one that I've listened to for a good while, knowing about it since this project came out. This is a nice one. Bobby V and Gucci Mane are on here. It's a jazzy club bop. Definitely has like a pretty jazzy beat on here. It's a nice dance tune, I would have to say. And it's just a whimsical kind of night out. Definitely would look at that one. It's a nitty beat, so pay attention to that. If you like Young Joc and nitty pairs, which there are a few if you look hard enough, this is another one that kind of has that fare. Wham is a nice song on here. It has a nice hook from Slim of 112, so it's a pretty good cut. This is a butter smooth ladies jam on here. It's just some relaxed breeziness, and it's an easy kind of serenade. Basically the go-to cut for the ladies. Apart from Drinks Up, but then Don't Be Scared is a pretty good one too. And I'd probably say that there's another one on here, but Chose Me is another good song. So there are some good ladies cuts on here. Definitely some nice ones. I feel like Don't Be Scared is another good example of that. This is like a snazzy kind of after hours ladies gem. This is definitely one. It's a slinky kind of creeping beat on here, I definitely feel like, and it's some good fun. I feel like this is a good one for like 1:30, 2:33 in the morning, something like that. Just showing up late, some of those type concepts as far as that kind of goes. Just hangout kind of song as far as that kind of happens. This nice bop. This would definitely kind of say, definitely like the snazzy beat on Don't Be Scared. It's a good one. I feel like Chose Me is another nice one. Speaking of ladies songs, this is one that has Chris Brown on here. It says that this song has Pleasure P on here, and he's from Pretty Ricky, which I don't hear him quite as much. I at least notice Chris Brown, but I don't know if I don't know if Pleasure P is just in the chorus, but I wasn't able to notice him on the song. But this is a gleaming kind of promo cut, I feel like. Chose Me. It's just a fancy kind of ladies' evening out kind of gem, and it just has the overall suave feel. This is another one with some commercial flair about it. Like when I talked about Drinks Up having some commercial flair, I feel like Chose Me is another one that has like a lot of finesse and just dress to impress kind of promo type feels about it. This is a pretty suave one, I would have to say. It's definitely interesting for a mixtape cut getting some of these. So this is one I would go for if you're not just in jerseys and tall tees and some of that type of stuff, or just t-shirts, that sort of stuff. So it's a good one. 500 Horses is like a pounding kind of nightclub, strip club bop. This is definitely a stunt song, I feel like, and it's a showy kind of vehicle cut. Definitely like the concept behind that one. It's just probably one of the more pounding beats on this project. Just an overall nice one for stunting and flexing, that type of stuff. Birds is a nice one. This is the song that has Nicki Minaj on the chorus on there. She does a pretty good job with that. It's pretty nice that Yung Joc was able to snag a Nicki Minaj verse scene as to how big she blew up and stuff. But it also has Gucci Mane on here and OJ the Juice Man. Birds is like a haunting kind of trap bop. This is like a glaring beat, and it's a good smoke session kind of song. And it kind of reminds me of some local traverse. I would just use it as like a song to go pick up some snacks at like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. in the morning. Get like some Chex Mix, some 2 liters, Sprite, some stuff like that. Just get some goodies and smoke one in the backyard, some of that type of stuff as far as that kind of goes. It's an overall nice haunting bop. Counterfeit's a nice one. This has like a very melodic kind of oozing beat on here. It's probably one of the best beats and most distinctive beats on this project, just for a typical night out, and some good outing fare. There's a lot of good evening bops on here, I feel like, and this is just a good example of that. Grind Flu, check. Counterfeit, make a movie. So is pretty nice. Grind Flu, check. Counterfeit, so some of those type ones. Drinks Up are just some good night fare as far as that kind of goes. That's some good stuff and that sort of concept. So Might As Well is a nice one. This is one that I would listen to when you're high as fucking shit. It's a dizzy, sporadic, kind of claustrophobic beat, and it's just a good social time, I would have to say. The unfortunate thing about this song is when you're not screwed up or something like that, it's just not quite as pounding a beat to really listen to. This is just one that really assumes that you're kind of distorted and that type of stuff as far as that kind of goes. But I just would look after it. It's a great song for kind of being sporadic and kind of claustrophobic as far as that kind of goes. But if you're not, it just doesn't have as much effect. But it's enough to kind of recommend. This is one of the most just kind of screwed up kind of songs on the project in terms of like your like highness fare as far as that kind of goes. Another nice one on here is Universal Language. This has a pretty belly and this kind of creeping kind of beat on here. It just really feels like some midnight antics. This is like a late night kind of glaring beat. It's some midnight antics, like I was saying. It's a fun, solid smoke song. I would definitely listen to this in like the after hours, just being able to smoke and that type of stuff. It's definitely a gangster rap kind of tune, very similar to Birds, I would have to say. And there's probably another one on here that kind of has some stuff like that, but I look after it, like Post at the Stores, another one like that. But Universal Language is just very much like for night owls, I would say, just after hours kind of cut as far as that kind of goes. But it just is kind of more edgy as far as that goes. But I do think it's a great smoking song. Make a Movie's another nice one. This has DJ Khaled on here very briefly, which I don't see Yung Joc teaming up with DJ Khaled too much, but it's a creeping kind of money getting song. Definitely like the concept about it. Clever enough topic. It's an evening bop, and it's a nice song for night owls. So this is kind of one that's just kind of definitely one of the more slanted and slinky kind of beats on this project. It's a really nice one for that kind of fare, but yeah, it's just some good fare. It's not the best beat on here, but it definitely is a pretty creeping one. Give it like an 8.5, something like that out of 10. Good enough. But check, I would say check, Wham, Drinks Up, Counterfeit, Chose Me are probably some better ones, and some of those type ones. But it is a pretty good one. It's probably in the top half of the ones I'd recommend. So is another nice one. This is kind of a local residential jive. This is a nice leery kind of litty beat, and this feels like a regular night around the house. This is kind of more like folks like Migos are pretty good about doing local residential kind of bops as far as just hanging out, not necessarily going out and stunting and flexing that type of stuff, but just kind of more local kind of cuts. Usually Gucci Mane, when he does this sort of thing, uses like a Zaytoven beat, something like that, or just those kind of more trap house kind of fares. But this is a good example. So is just a more residential residential kind of bop as far as that kind of goes. Do like the concept of getting this one. It's interesting to have Yung Joc kind of do more lays around the house type bop. I mean, I can kind of see it's not quite a house party tune. I feel like it's enough of residential jive to be able to have at least something going on when you're at the house. So it's a good one for that. There's not a ton of songs like this on the album. Most of the Yung Joc's kind of fare on here is more about stepping out, but there's just some good kind of residential type tunes at least to be able to say like universal language and so and like maybe might as well be another good one for that too. So I just kind of feel like there's some good songs in that essence, but for the most part, I like that Yung Joc kind of keeps a pretty good balance. I like that Yung Joc keeps a pretty good balance of like around the house kind of fare and then stepping out kind of fare. I mean, all of this is kind of edgy and more trap oriented, but I do like the concept of just being able to get this as far as that's kind of concerned, that it is pretty good, this amalgamation of how that kind of goes. But to talk about the songs that I don't recommend on here, which is only 4, which would just be My Niggas, Posted at the Store, Over, and Winner, which I feel like 2 of the worst beats on the album are Posted at the Store and Over. Both of these are just kind of ugly ones that just don't really have any pizzazz about them in like a flashy kind of way. I felt like Winner was kind of another one that was a pretty poor beat. I feel like Winner was another one that has a pretty poor beat. It has Mass Pike Miles on there, who's a pretty good cat. He collaborates with Rick Ross and that type of stuff. I just didn't like that one as much, and it just was kind of a lengthy song. Didn't need to be 7 minutes. It was just kind of clumsy in its execution. And then My Niggas was kind of another one that I just didn't like the composition of that much. I liked the beat on there, but I just didn't like the composition, the execution. It was just kind of a hammy song that just was kind of out of character somewhat for Yung Joc and just didn't quite nail it quite as well as it probably should have. So that's kind of the concept about it. But me liking 13 songs out of 17 on this project, that is quite excellent. So I'm going to go ahead and give this mixtape like a 9.25 out of 10. It's just that good to me. I feel like there's just sheer quality on here. I feel like there's just sheer quality on here. I liked all the stepping out kind of songs. Definitely some great moments. Yeah, there's just some good Liddy stepping out moments on here like Check, Wham, Counterfeit, Chose Me, 500 Horses, Grind Flu, Drinks Up, some of those type moments, Don't Be Scared. Plus there's some good residential moments like So and Universal Language and Might As Well that just really work pretty well. So it's just a good concept as far as that kind of goes. So some good overall stuff. This is kind of an overlooked project, definitely. I would just have to say some of the immediate ones that I would go to, like I said, if you don't know Yung Joc that well, but you at least are a fan of New Joc City and you're just looking for more immediate highlights, like some of those projects, like some of those ones like Patron and I Know You See It and It's Going Down, some of those. I would definitely say that Check, Wham, Drinks Up are some immediate ones. Counterfeit's got a pretty oozing beat. Chose Me is a great stepping out kind of suave ladies song, some of those type ones. So those would just be some ones for that. But I kind of look after it just being able to say this is an excellent little Yung Joc project here. It's very unsung nowadays, just not talked about overtly, so I definitely recommend it. The social score I'm going to go ahead and give like a 10 just because I think the concept behind it is there's just a lot of overall good jive. He has the guests on here, he has the budget, so even if he has less budget than he had on Bad Boy, I still feel like this is quality enough to be able to produce some excellent projects. So this is basically like an independent album almost that's free, so that's kind of the thing. There's good social moments, good residential kind of trap life and local residential life and stepping out life and ladies life and some of that type of stuff. So a good amalgamation of all that. In terms of the future, like Yung Joc, Yung Joc has been kind of quiet nowadays, but there is some more stuff that I want to review by him. But I definitely recommend this project. It's a pretty nice one.